Next question is, what does the Bible say about adoption? Is there a spiritual adoption found in Ephesians 1:5? Adoption is sort of misunderstood today because we think of adoption as, a mom and dad wanting to have a child and they can't have one, so they go down to the adoption agency and they adopt a child, which is a wonderful thing, or foster parents that have a child that they want now to adopt. And that's a wonderful thing, but that's not what the Bible's about. Adoption in the Bible was more about the change of a person from a child to an adult. You see, in Bible days, there were no teenagers. You either were a child or you reached puberty and you became a man or a woman. There was no middle years. There was strictly from childhood to manhood. They called it a bar mitzvah in the Jewish faith. All the Gentile nations of that day, the Romans, the Greeks, they all had a time of training up the young child to where they would then be ready to be actually a full heir, to be adopted, so to speak, and to take on the ring. If you remember, the ring was what you wrote checks with, you signed documents with, and that was the story of the prodigal son. He took his daddy's ring and misused it, but when he came back, his daddy forgave him and get his ring back. So adoption was a recognition of adulthood. And so what the Bible talks about is the child of God and the son of God, or the daughter of God. We're speaking of the two different, in the Greek, there are two words there that describe being a child and being a full adult child. And that's what adoption is. We've come to full adoption. That's what we call God Abba, Father. In other words, when we come to Christ, it's like that recognition of a young child that's been trained by tutoring and trained by his parents and trained by the ones that spend the time to educate him, to prepare him to be the head of that home and family, and he therefore becomes adopted. And that was the ceremony. In those days, legal rights were given at that age, which would have been today's teenage age. They were now considered able to make all family decisions and lead the family in all decisions. In the Jewish faith, it was the oldest child. In Gentile faith, it was the one that was chosen. So adoption was something very meaningful because it said you now have all the right to all the heirs. You're the heir of the estate. You have all the rights to use the estate, spend money in the estate, produce anything as you wish. You are now adopted. And God's saying to us, I have adopted you. You have full ownership of my kingdom. Anything, Jesus said, in my kingdom you can have. That's why those verses mean a lot to those people, because they understood what he's saying. You've just inherited the greatest kingdom ever, which is God's kingdom. You're now an adopted son or daughter of the king. You're a king's kid, so to speak. And so that's what adoption was about. It was very significant in those days, and it was very important for us because adoption is something we need to realize is our inheritance. God didn't just see us saved, which is important, but he sees us as adopted, as children entitled to everything he has. Every promise, every blessing is ours. And the Bible speaks of that in Ephesians. We've inherited these great and precious promises. We've become his beloved because we are his adopted children that he's chosen to be his. And the Bible speaks of the Gentile faith engrafted into the vine, adopted into the same vine that the Jewish vine is that Jesus stood for. So the adoption is a very important word to understand because it has so much spiritual meaning in your life.